Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to be coming to you and showing you how you can create step by step this really charming and very beginner friendly watercolor of a mother and child. Making a lot of noise in the back and also turning on all the cameras is my husband John.
Hello.
I don't know if you can hear him. He's fixing the green screen because that's what he does. We call him Stunt Hands on the show, and that's because you'll probably only ever see his hands.
I
But
forgot
he'll
something.
come through, and if there's any technical issues or sound issues or camera issues during the live, you can actually make a comment if you put it all in caps, and he may be able to correct for it if you need to see a part of the canvas that maybe we're not catching with the camera. I'm going to explain every part of how to create this wonderful image step by step. I'm going to provide you a free reference. This is a traceable, just in case you don't draw, so that you can create this. This is a really great watercolor if you're painting with kids or you're really new. We're going to use real simple colors today, real simple materials. And I'm also going to explain how to do the transfer methods. You don't have to know anything to do this class. Let's go over the materials, John.
Okay.
You guys ready for some materials?
I will be in like 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds,
Okay,
he's
there we
ready
go.
for
All
some
right.
materials because
Let's
I'm
do this.
over the materials, so he'll have to make me tiny Sherpa. So I'm going to be the small figure in your life for this painting. Now here I have all the watercolors that I use for the 2021 year. I'm using a set palette, and I do that for my students, and I've changed that actually in what I do so that you guys can build up a collection of paint and colors over time and paint with me every week. If you'd like to paint weekly, be sure and hit the subscribe button so YouTube notifies you that we're going to be live. The colors for today are pretty simple. They're quinacridone magenta. I might use a little opera pink. It is phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. Now, you could do these in any colors that were your favorite or your mother's favorite, or however you want to personalize this. That will work. This particular piece will work really, really well. We're going to be doing drawing with our brush, and we're going to be doing wet into wet, and I'm going to explain to you how to succeed at either one of those things. This here...
Is that the traceable right there?
This is the traceable, and I have to upload this to you guys at the website, theartsherpa.com, and you can get that from the traceable app right after the show. You should have had it before the show, but I don't know what I was doing. It's acrylic April in another part of my life, and I just don't know if I'm coming or going. But it'll be there immediately after this live stream. It's free for you to download. It doesn't cost anything. It's just something to help you if you're not confident drawing. Now, I have like 10 of these around, but I think the kids have run off with them because they've been practicing them. And I couldn't find those either. So we're going to just really enjoy doing this together. This is a line drawing that you just print out from your printer. I'm using 140-pound paper on a block. Today, you guys asked me about different papers, so I'm going to show you the other kind of watercolor paper I like. This is the Strathmore watercolor. So I like Fabriano. And I like the Strathmore. The Strathmore you can get at a lot of craft stores and sometimes find on discount. And this is the block. A block means all the pages are glued together and that there's a little opening called a little key. On this one, it's here at the edge, and you just slide a little knife into that and free it. Now, on the traceable, when you print it out on your printer, you would go on the back and you would rub a pencil. I used an aqua pencil, which is basically a regular pencil like what you have at home. But the fancy twist on it is that it's also a type of watercolor. I know. So fancy. So I did that. And you rub it all over the back. This is a really good thing to know how to do. Then I put a little bit of tape on here. And I chose to use artist tape or low tack tape. Washi tape is a low tack tape. And the reason I do that is so that the tape doesn't tear my paper, because I don't want to damage my paper. I position my lines where I want it. And I'm going to rub my little tape down. You always want to tape your traceables because if you don't, they'll shift. And you won't get a nice transfer. And that is like going to ruin the whole point. Sometimes I like to give it 2 spots of taping just so I don't push it around too much. And then I'm going to take a pencil or a pen, just something with a hard edge, and I draw over all the lines that you see in black. And that's how you do a transfer.
Oh,
now,
that seems pretty straightforward.
Tips is that you either want to be right on the line or just inside the line. Because if you go to the outside of the line, that can change the whole composition. You want to be right on the line or inside the line.
I see many members of our lovely art family out here with us.
Hey, Art family. We are on our YouTube channel, which is the Art Sherpa, How to Watercolor Live with the Art Sherpa. And we're also on our Facebook page. So whichever stream works better for you, catch that stream. You can watch from either place. I know sometimes YouTube is lagging and sometimes Facebook is lagging.
Yep.
So this is for both.
And this is one of those times where they say, you know what, John? We're going to add an extra layer of complexity by giving you a whole other chat window to follow.
Did they? Or did I? I feel like that was an I did that. So you can see here what this creates is a very light drawing, right? It's very, very light. The lines are light. You don't want the lines to be dark, right? You want to have little light lines that you can. Now I'm going to darken my lines just a little bit with watercolor pencil. And this is for you guys. You don't do this at home or worry about this. I do this so you can see some of what I'm talking about a little bit easier. And because I can work around it. I'm showing you where the face is. The reason you need to know where the line of the face is or see me using this is so that you know how to do this at home. Because there's a really cool watercolor trick we're going to do here that really is going to make some gorgeous, gorgeous mother-child portraits. Who's excited about doing a mother-child portrait?
Oh my gosh, I can see so many people. We have folks from all over the world. I see folks from Missouri and from South Carolina. That's more of our side of the world. And then there's Raheel, which is way over there on the other side of the world in India. And then, so like, I saw some folks here from New Zealand, and some of our Australia friends. And
so it's like a crazy time of day over there. So thank you for being here. I see Nancy Roberts on YouTube today, and it's going well, she says. And I see Amy Ovard, and she's like, I'm so glad she's welcoming a friend come in. So wherever you're at on the live chat, enjoy that. I'm using, now this is a crazy, funny, fancy brush. You don't need to use this brush. This is a number 8 watercolor round. I'm using an Escoda, and the exact Escoda that I'm using is in the description. Now, this Escoda was remade or reborn by an artist named Jasper Stardust. He puts on these fancy handles. This is in no way necessary. It's complete joy, but not necessary for watercolor. In fact, this particular piece can be done with any number 8. You could do like a student number 8. So any number 8, just a brush in this size is what you want. I'm going to get my brush thoroughly wet, and I'm going to do something called pre-wetting the paper. So I'm going to take my brush and very carefully on the inside of the line, and this is the other reason I kind of use the watercolor pencil so you could see how that was happening. I'm going to come in and sketch inside the lines of the face. It's not a super wet brush, but it's wet enough to wet the paper, and the paper should look shiny to your eye, but not soaked. Fish shouldn't be able to swim in it, but the paper should be damp. It's a balancing act. I'm going to bring some of that wet down a little bit, and then interestingly enough, I'm going to make a loose, see how I'm coming outside my lines with a loose amount of kind of wet paper?
Yeah, you can make it kind of shiny.
Shiny. You want it to be shiny. Now, when I have that wet, right, and it's wet but not soaked, shiny but not a puddle, I'll go ahead and get some of my phthalo blue on my brush. And you can see I came right there to that edge. Now, you can be using Crayola watercolors, and this will work for you. And I'm going to come along the face, inside the line, a little bit up the head, and I'll even let this come out. I'm going to tap my brush out a little bit, and this is called blooming. This is what watercolor can do when you just let watercolor find its own way. And I'm just still, again, on the inside. Now, I'm going to rinse out a bit, and I'm going to take a little bit of my quinacridone. Quinacridone and the phthalo blue and ultramarine blue make a lot of lovely purples and work really well together, and this will make kind of a galaxy look. A little bit galaxy. If I added stars, it would be very galaxy. I want to get this back here. If my paper isn't blooming, it may have dried a little bit, and I may need to add some water to it. And this is the other reason I like to work with a block, because let me get some ultramarine blue here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take it over to my quinacridone, and that gives me a very nice purple. And I'm going to work in here. You just use any colors that you like. You could use green and yellow and blue. I did one with pink and yellow and orange. The colors are not really important. And the reason that I let the color go off the edge is I like to think of it as like the mother and child's love is kind of exploding out of their heart.
Mm-hmm.
This is the energy of how they feel about each other, because there's nothing like a child and parent. That's a very special relationship. And that relationship really changes us. Now, on the heart, I do come down and let it be on a hard edge through here on the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to contain that sense of the two of them looking at each other. I might go ahead and let's get a little bit of our opera pink, which is a fun color. You don't have to have opera pink. You just pick whatever bright color you have. If you have a bright pink that you like on your palette, it's a good one to pick. And let's go ahead and get a little bit of our ultramarine. Now, some colors will bloom better than others, right? I'm using Daniel Smith and Golden Artist Colors Core watercolors, and they have a lot of high flow agent in them. So that helps with the blending. One of the big tricks will be to allow your painting to rest and to do its work, to let the colors find each other. Heather C., so you would add stars with fluid white and a splattering tool. Yes, I could add stars with fluid white and a splattering tool. It depends on if I'm okay with the splatter being all over. Like if I want to use a splattering tool, it won't really show up on the white paper. I might come through and very carefully put in stars with a dotting tool or toothpick and white fluid paint. You could use gouache. You could use a jelly pen. You could use acrylic. Those would all be good things to use. You guys ready? This kind of goes fast.
It really does.
How would you make this into a boy? So it's interesting. If the child is young enough, right, on a young child, you just wouldn't add the longer hair, right? Because on young children, they have a very specific profile. The profile is a little bit shortened. The forehead is larger. The noses are shortened and tend to be up. And the lips also tend to be up. The younger the child is, the more that you'll see that. And that's really a function of weirdly nursing. So if I want this to feel more like a boy, I probably would not add like little curls of hair unless the boy I was painting had little curls of hair. And I could also, for the mother, do similar things. I'm going to rinse out my brush, make sure it's fairly clean. On the mom, you know, each mother has her own kind of hairstyle. I would say what would be more challenging, and here's what I will do. I will put up a, I don't know when I'll get it done, but I'll also put up a father and child, because there would be significant difference between the adult face and the child on the adult side, because the angles of men's faces are much more pronounced, whereas women's faces, obviously, human beings, every type of human out there, so this isn't universally true, it is just most often true, have very soft or curved lines, whereas men have more angular lines. And so when you're trying to make a silhouette of a man, you might have these be more angled and the proportions be a little bit different. And I'll put a traceable up for both. That way, if you wanted to do this later on for Father's Day, you could. And I may even come back and do one of these for Father's Day. You know. But, you know, you could paint this anytime. It doesn't have to be for Mother's Day.
No.
Moms and dads are those things all year. Could be for a grandparent. You know, could just be for any relationship. You could be painting it yourself for your child. Who's like, maybe you're getting ready to have a baby. You could be painting this for your child to put in the nursery, and you could do this in the nursery colors. Alan's like, you rock. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how faces can be different. um, for age and gender.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good things to observe, as long as you recognize that these things are often not universally true.
And, it's actually fairly easy to take a picture of yourself and make a profile of it and just kind of look,
Yes.
because you can just take a picture of yourself sideways and then just,
Really make a very custom profile.
yeah, and then you can add your own kind of elements. Easy.
Very, very easy. Okay, so I started out with quinacridone, and you can see I'm allowing the blue to bloom in.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little more control here along the profile.
Kind of looks like a superhero running fast.
Well, there was a bit of that, right? I've got the mom kind of making little kissy lips here. About to kiss her child. So it's okay that I have a little control in this space to where I know I'm going to be adding maybe areas that I have less control. Maybe get more into my phthalo blue up here. And I allow the blooming to happen. One of the big tricks will be to know when to stop working your watercolor. And this is a great exercise for that. This is a really good exercise for wet into wet and learning how we control watercolor on paper, because at this point you're learning the universal truth of watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
That the pigment goes where the water is. So if there's no water on the paper and it's only on your brush, then the pigment's going to stay wherever your brush marks are. If there's water or your paper is damp, then the pigment's going to travel through the paper and across that surface. So those are where the surprises, I think, happen to people, is they don't know that it's coming.
Yep.
So this particular pink, you'll notice, doesn't do the big bloom. And that is because it's Daniel Smith and they don't put as much flow agent in their paint.
Oh, yeah. That is noticeable.
And it is. But when I come in with the phthalo blue from Golden, look at that. If your paint isn't doing this, you can buy a product called Oxgall. Sounds terrible. And it will do this for you. Or you can buy a product from Golden Artist Colored called Flow Aid, which you should never, ever put in an aerosol thing. It's a little dangerous in the air. Not dangerous in the water so much, but definitely dangerous in your lungs, because it's a major anti-surfactant used in serious painting processes.
Which requires serious painting gear.
Which requires some serious painting gear. It just exists. I'm just telling you it exists. Now I can put this anywhere and have some nice blooming as long as the paper is still wet, as you can see. I may come through with my brush kind of nice and tidy and make sure that there are areas. There's a thing that almost happened to me here. There was a water drop on my brush. That water drop can mess you up. So when you're rinsing out your watercolor, be sure to watch for the drop. I can come here and make sure that maybe the feature side of things is a little bit crisp.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to. See that's just a little touch that I do. Now, if you want to add some hair, you can do that at this stage. I'll take a little bit of my quinacridone, and I might come here and add a little hair, kind of flowing off the mop.
Little hair.
Just a little bit. It's something you can do. You don't have to do it. And Alan is pointing out the difference is really, and then Tammy's like a face peeking between them. Hey, what about me? Oh, yeah. Sometimes we use like major events or observances to give ourselves a reason to paint something. But I suggest that you paint for just the reasons that you paint. Mm-hmm. If you want to paint, paint. And if you want to paint a mother and child, paint a mother and child. If you want to paint a father and child, paint a father and child. If I want to add a little hair, I'm going to come in the color that's there, and I'll add that little bit of hair. I Can be a cute touch.
Now, do you add the oxcal to the water or to the paint?
I like to put the oxgal out on the palette and add it in small controlled amounts. Some people like to put it in the water. Here's what I'll say with oxgal. Just follow the instructions exactly on the bottle. And any anti-surfactant, follow the instructions exactly on the bottle. Anything that makes the water tension change in your water, that's what all of those things are, essentially, is they'll have very specific instructions, and they'll tell you how much water you can use, and they can tell you how you can use it with your paint, and they'll tell you what you shouldn't do, and they'll tell you what's dangerous, and it'll be on the tube or on the bottle. Because I bought it in both things. I have Holbein Oxgal, which is awesome, except it's in Japanese, so I can't show you but the one that's sold here in the United States does have the instructions on the bottle in English. I got mine on Amazon. I don't know what it is. Sometimes you can buy art products on Amazon that come from another country and are not necessarily translated into English and don't have their safety information in English. So when that happens, I suggest that you go to the website. Like if you buy Posca pens, that's true. You go to the website and you read the safety information there. Mm-hmm. Because in colored pencils, that can be dangerous real fast. Not in watercolor. Well, I guess even in watercolors. In art supplies, because some pigments do have, none of these pigments, but some pigments do have some safety requirements. So that is a very good thing. The oxgal I put a little bit out on the palette and I add there. The other agent that I have, I add to the water. But it really is product by product when you want to read the instructions about where they want you to put it. And also how they want you to dispose of it. I should do a whole video about like all the ways to do that.
There's so many things.
There are so many. There's, of course, people like to add a little bit of soap to the water, which is not as big a deal, weirdly, in watercolor as it is in acrylic, because we don't have a bunch of anti-foaming agents in watercolor. It's just pigment and the binder and the gummy rubric and the binder and the, what is it, the other thing? Pigment and the binder and the, that's just it. That's all it is. Sometimes I'm honey. Whatever makes it more flexible. John and I made paint a little bit.
Well, you can. It kind of depends on which one to do, because you have pigment and binder. That's really all you need for paint.
Well, for watercolor, we're just speaking watercolor, just watercolor.
But just yeah.
So
well, technically speaking, that's all you need for any.
This does not. Well, but in acrylic, there is a bunch of extra chemistry when you read what's actually in acrylic paint. To
make the binder work, there's more
to take the pigment, but watercolor doesn't have these problems. So specifically to watercolor. You can get away with some stuff in watercolor that I would say don't do in my acrylic channel. It's a weird world.
Yeah, paint quickly turns to chemistry.
Animal Antics says, I'm late. Is there traceable for this somewhere? Immediately after this live, I'm uploading it to the website. Like immediately. And I meant to have it up before the live, but then I didn't. But now I'm gonna. And I'll make sure there's a link in the comments to it. So you can find it easy. And I'll put it in the description. So you can find it easy. Now, next week, we're going to be doing a little fish, and he's a little bit more challenging than this, but he's similar in his technique, so it will build on this concept a little bit if you're trying to learn watercolors. And we're going to learn a little bit of glazing and a little bit of layering on top of our wet into wet. The paint that didn't bloom as much as the Daniel Smith. I like Daniel Smith because it does a thing called granulating, which is where you see as the pigment in the paint kind of comes out, there's like little pockets of pigment that thicken and take on personality. Certain pigments are more likely to do this. And then the other one where you see the big blooming is the core. You can get the core in both tube and in pan, which is what you think of like with the Crayolas. This tiny little tube will seem expensive initially until you realize that it's going to last such a long time. Like, I'm going to be painting for 2 or 3 weeks on this paint here that is going to be, I can reactivate this with water. So whereas acrylic, this would be all dry and done. I'm using it forever. I have little tiny travel pans that I've had for years. It's in watercolor. The investments, you need to think about them differently. Because this little tube is like a big, giant tube of acrylic, or a couple of them, in its amount of what you can paint from it. You can paint a lot of things from this tiny, tiny little tube. And it's the same with the brushes. I can spend a little more money on my brushes, because they last forever. As long as I don't even have to do a big soap out. I can just do a nice rinse out, finger shape. You know, I just make sure the pigment's out of them, because the paint does not damage the brush the same way it does in acrylic. So totally different there. And thinking about that, what you want to make sure that you have is a 140-pound watercolor paper. And if you have a kid or you're new, you're going to want to get it in a block, because that will help you with the biggest problem for new artists, which is the buckling. You'll see some buckling. I don't know if the camera can you catch the little bit of buckling I have going on here?
So tilt it up to the other way.
Maybe this way?
Keep tilting.
Okay. Okay, there you go. Can you see the buckling?
Tilting. Keep tilting. You can see the buckle. Keep
going.
Okay. Almost vertically, and you can see it. Push on your finger. There you go. You can see the puffiness.
Okay, see this here?
Yeah.
So this is what messes with you guys so much.
Push the puffy.
Push the puffy. Push it. All right. There it is. Now, on a loose sheet, the whole sheet could curl. You have to kind of tape it down and flatten it out. There's all this stuff that you've got to do. So what this does is it allows the paper to buckle, and it does have sizing and everything in it. And then as it dries, because it's glued on all sides, it does a thing called stretching. It re-stretches it. So if I don't take this off the block until it's dry, it's going to really kind of go mostly flat again. So if you're really new to painting, the investment I would say do is to get a block. I love the Fabriano Artistico block, but if you can't find it, the block I can find most readily is the Strathmore Watercolor 140 pounds. That's what you need to look for. 140 pounds, 300 gram if you're in the UK. That's why both of those measurements are on there. And I do cold press. That means the paper's bumpy. So if you read the words 140-pound cold press, and it says the word watercolor paper block cold press, you know if it's another brand. I say these things to you because maybe you live somewhere else and you don't have this brand, or this brand is packaged completely differently. That's what you're looking for. Block cold press 140 pound. And you're good. And you're good. And Alan is singing Salt and Pepper. Amy says, if the first layer paint dries, but you still want to blend watercolor into it, what is the best way to blend the new wet paint with the dry paint without ending up with hard edges? So let me answer that real fast, Amy. So we've got a little bit of the water here is pushing the pigment here. I like that, but what if I didn't like that and I wanted to add some blue? I'm going to come along with just a clean, damp brush. And I've got my little paper towel to the side to control water and pigment. And I'm going to soften these two edges together. This is the other thing people really like about watercolor. If the pigment is not too staining and it's fairly granulated, you have an even easier time to do this. There are mediums to help you, right? I'm just coming along here. Can you guys see how that just blends nicely?
Yeah.
So like oils, watercolor can do some very soft transitions. So now I have all this here. If I wanted to come in and say, put a little phthalo blue into it, right? The paper is wet, and I can come along here and add a little bit of that phthalo blue. Okay?
Huh.
And it won't even be a thing. I wanted to come here and change that edge a little bit. So what you have when you add a little wet to the paper, though, is that little transition. And so you will want to make sure that you use the kind of brush off method. And you just control the amount of water that's on the paper.
Huh.
You can also erase pretty easily in watercolor. You can really lift up quite a lot of pigment. The act of that, though, kind of fatigues your paper. And you'll start to get pilling or roughness on the surface, and it won't necessarily take paint again as nicely. It's probably easier to use a frisket if you're trying to preserve something. And again, there's agents, there's mediums now to lift pigment out of paper.
What's frisket?
Frisket is a liquid masking agent. It just basically makes a seal. It's like a little rubber seal that keeps your paper white. So you can do crazy stuff and still have white paper. It does a whole bunch of things. I'm going to have a whole frisket video. All right. So Animal Antics is going to do this maybe in acrylic. You can do this in acrylic, and you can do this in watercolor. In acrylic, you may not get the big bloom. You would definitely have to use a flow aid. And once the paint is dry, it just won't lift again. That's the biggest difference. Is acrylic will do this. Acrylic will do this. You just water it down a whole lot, more than I ever allow you to on the channel. Allow it to do all of its blooming, and then allow it to dry.
The fancy brush you used, where can you find it?
Okay, so I put the exact name of it down in the description, but this is by an artist named Jasper Stardust. It's Jasper with a Z, and he's on Instagram. He makes watercolor paint, which everybody seems to really love. And I say that just because I haven't tried any, but the feedback that I'm seeing is very good. And he custom makes the, you just have to, it's a custom order. You like put an order in, and then when he gets it done, he gets it done. It's not a fast turnaround thing.
He's not in a hurry. He has a customers waiting for him.
There's a waiting list, but between my mother-in-law and myself, we bought many of them. He doesn't gift these to me as some sort of social media, like I'll shout you out if you shout me out. We don't do that. But we purchased many full price and have had the full experience that you would have. And I've been satisfied, and she's been satisfied the entire time. I have a tiny one too that she got me. This is a small one in a slightly different wood with a purple and blue finish. So they're a little different each time. And there's some crazy cattywampus. This is it dry. I have to actually get this one wet and shape it. And you can pick the brush that goes in to the watercolor. So if you have a brush that you know that you like, you could also be like, oh no, I really need this particular brush. You can do everyone but silver brushes, black velvet, because I don't even, because they're gonna get crazy about the patent, really, or something. Yeah. I don't think legally it would matter, but it still would be annoying. So why go through it? I would just pick a different brush. So this is an Escoda, and you can see my brush was a little bit fluffy, and this is how you refinger shape them back into shape. And then if I let that dry, it will be all the way back like new. Oh my gosh, guys. Christy, what if you brought a hot press block? It would be, okay, so the difference between hot press and cold press is that there's not all the bumpies in the paper. So sometimes the granulation doesn't show as much, but you get brighter color results sometimes.
Huh.
So it's just a smoother surface. It does not hurt your painting experience. It's entirely preferential. So don't worry about that if you got hot press.
Hot press.
Hot press is okay. You're okay. You just have a little less granulation. And you may find that you like that if you're trying to do like cactuses or more graphic stuff. And if you want to do some gouache on the pad as well, it will take the gouache better because it'll be hot press.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a benefit. Maybe you had a bunch of gouache and you were like wanting to paint with that too. Amy's like, thank you. And she says, I made her day. She finally figured out what was going on with watercolor. And will Frisket work with Copic? The one that I use, which is the Ultimate Masking Agent, yes, will work with Copic. I can't say that for all of them, but that Ultimate Masking Agent seems, I think I can, I'm actually trying to see how it works with acrylic. I think it'll work with acrylic. So basically all it is it's a brushable, you can paint it out, liquid, it's literally real latex made from plants, and you brush it out and it dries and it creates a barrier or seal wherever it is, and then you can remove it easily with like a rubber cement picker upper, or even your finger, you know. And for those of you that have allergies that are very concerning about latex, they have alternate Friskets. Go figure.
That's
so
cool.
There's a bunch of brands that are non-latex Friskets. So this is the plant one. This isn't the petroleum-based one. And I think there may be a difference between those two things for allergies, to be real honest. But I don't know. I'm not a doctor. You need to ask your doctor. I'm giving no medical advice. Oh, what is a good question? Joy asked a good question. I do not think granulation medium and oxgal are the same, but I don't know that for a fact. So let me do some look into my resources because I have a huge library. Let me look in the resources and get a definitive, good, solid answer. And I will get back to you, Joy. Like, just remind me that you asked me that. And when we come back next class, I will tell you if granulation medium and oxgall are the same. Off the top of my head, I think they're different, but I don't know that. And so I'm going to confirm it and get back to you. Because that is a good question.
Yeah.
It's a very good question. So now I'm going to learn all about that. And then I'll be like all about that. So thank you. I love it when you guys ask me questions. And it's okay to ask me questions that I don't have the entire of all art everywhere memorized. Like, I know it seems like I do, but I don't. So it's great when you guys find an edge case where I'm like, I don't know. I love to go find that stuff out because it makes me a stronger teacher and it broadens my understanding of my product resources. And it also helps me, stay agile.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps me humble, man. Keeps me humble. All right. So this was wonderful, guys. Let's sign it. I forgot to do that.
That's good to do.
That's good to do. I'm going to use my smaller Jasper Stardust, which again, you do not need to use to do this painting. I just really like it because they're so fancy.
It really is.
There we go. A little bit of Sherpa.
Wow.
Signing watercolor right there. I cannot wait to see yours. You can definitely share. These count as tutorials. So the watercolor lessons count as tutorials for the Art Sherpa group official. So you can share as many of the Art Sherpa watercolor tutorials as you want, anytime, any day. You don't have to worry about posting days. If you're going to do an original watercolor, you can share that on Fine Art Friday with the hashtag Fine Art Friday, as long as you've shared an Art Sherpa tutorial. That's if you are on Facebook and you want to share it. Other than that, just share it anywhere in social media because I'm on all social media. If you really for sure want me to see it, share it on Twitter because I don't have that many Twitter followers because apparently I'm not good at Twitter. I think that's a good thing. Actually, I think that just means I'm a decent person who doesn't kick up a lot of drama and make a bunch of people super upset and misinform them and be crazy. I think that's what it means. If you don't have a ton of Twitter followers, I think it's just because
that's what happens.
I just share happy animal videos and art. So not that I don't have that good secret sauce of drama. So, but I do like, you guys can share artwork very easily with me there. And I can definitely see it. You can share in group and I mostly see all that. And then of course, Instagram and of course on Pinterest. Mm-hmm. So any of those places I can see your results. All right. Thank you guys so much. Lily Cleveland says thanks, Cinnamon and John, and to the mods. Yes, everyone thank the mods on the way out. Thank you, mods, for helping us. We're like doing this big program, and they showed up for this. Oh my gosh, and running groups.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Sorry, babe.
Oh no, it's okay.
Be good to yourself. Be good to each other, and I want to see you at a watercolor pad real soon. Bye bye.